96 days, Tyler. We've neglected to start the countdown. We didn't start it on Thursday, I think, when we actually hit 100.
It was Friday.
It was Friday.
Was when we
Friday was when we actually hit 100.
Long weekend. The math's a little bit off.
So the math is a little bit off, and we didn't start the actual countdown, and now we're here. One of my favorite parts of the year is just counting down the days until football season begins. So 96 days until the season begins.
Now, when you were a player, I don't know how well you kept up with the countdown then. When you hit 100 days, was that like, oh, man, that's still 3+ months, or is like, oh, man, that's going to be here next week?
It's one of those glass half full, half empty type of deals. Yeah, man. Well, there's still a long way to go for the players because as today, and I believe today is the first day of whatever we're calling it now.
Yeah, I believe they all come back at least as late as last night, meeting or whatever. And yeah, today is when they kind of hit the ground running on summer activities.
Well, because based on my deep dive research, I saw a picture with Shane Beamer in front of a group of young men. And
last night.
I'm assuming that was a team meeting. I don't know.
Probably. That's my best. Hey, attendance accounting for, make sure we got all 100+ guys here and we're ready to roll.
That's my best idea of whether or not something happened. But I do think that today is the first day of summer workouts, whatever we call it now. Back in my day, back in the old days, this was, some people might be taking like summer 1 classes, or you might be in class. This was all voluntary workouts.
Yeah.
And I think that it's still considered voluntary at the moment.
Okay.
But it's voluntary much in like the way
we can't make you be here, but you should be here. Is that kind of thing?
Yeah, they call it being voluntold.
Yes,
you're voluntold to do here. It'd be in your best interest.
Yeah,
it would behoove you.
I think we've all been voluntold to be at things before.
Yes, it would behoove you to be here. So 96 days until the season starts. That means we are in the thick of it. We are in the middle of talking season. But thankfully, we still have a lot of things to talk about. And unfortunately, Jen, can we hit the most important thing? Because
now on the early game, let's kick off the show with the MITs, the most important things on the game.
Tyler, we've been having an ongoing conversation about what a walk-off home run is.
Yes.
And I've been on the bad side of history here. I'm sorry to report that my position, unfortunately, has been proven. We've had walk-off run rules. We've had walk-off sacrifice flies. We've had walk-off errors. We've had all types of walk-off, and I positioned that none of those were walk-off, and I got a lot of blowback from that.
Okay. And
I'm sad to report that we had a walk-off, a true, real deal, by the definition walk-off. Except it wasn't for the good guys.
No, it wasn't. And look, walk-offs should always have a sense of heartbreak associated with them, and I don't think there was any bigger heartbreak than what we saw on Saturday.
60 feet away. One out away.
One out.
I mean, you could not. It's in your grasp, in your clutch. It is right there. If you don't know what we're talking about, the softball team essentially had one out left to go in game 2 of the series. They took game 1. Everybody was excited to come back in game 2, lead the game in pretty dominating fashion for the whole game. The lead starts to slip a little bit, but you're like, okay, we're still fine. We're doing well. And then you go into the bottom of the 7th, which is a whole conversation that some folks could have because, I mean, it's a 3-game series. You're at home. You've earned home. Should you not have home field advantage for the whole series? I wonder if that's a question to be had.
This is something that's always bugged me, and we talked about this 2 years ago when baseball hosted their regionals, and you couldn't have your walk-up songs, and outside of you being in Founders Park, there couldn't really be anything that gave you an advantage of being at home. I don't think they can play Sandstorm at these kind of things, and yes, while you did get to be home in game number 1 and game number 3, now if you flip it, does it change on Saturday? I don't know, but I would have preferred the team hosting to get the last at bat in their home ballpark.
Yeah, that is a quirk that but that is the rule. That is the rule for it
No,
now.
it's a dumb rule, but
I
it's
do
the
think
rule.
yes. We even though it's a rule, we'll follow dumb rules. So yes, UCLA comes up in the bottom of the 7th. They mount a rally. UCLA is very good, so it wasn't as if it was a surprise that they would mount this type of rally. And they come up, they start having some success in the 7th inning. Make a pitch and change, which if you're just coming back to it, if you're just following softball, you might be thinking they're bringing her back in.
Yep.
Yes, that's something that you are allowed to do in softball, to bring the pitcher back in. It doesn't last long. One pitch, one swing, it's over.
Yep.
Gamecocks lose on the true definition of walk-off. Again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that was a walk-off, as you saw everybody slowly walk off the field and sort of gather themselves. And that set the stage for the rest of the series.
It did, and it's one of those things when you look at the totality of, the math in my head here, it's only 21 outs because you only play 7-inning games. Right. I mean, South Carolina owned the first 13 innings of this thing. Again, right until that very end of game number 2 on Saturday. And UCLA, we looked at the numbers on Friday going into the matchup. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country. Mm-hmm. Grant and Woolery combined for 47 home runs on the season. They were 12th in scoring offense. Just all these numbers that backed up saying they were going to put a lot of runs on the board over the weekend. For them to have 3 runs through the first 13 innings of the series, like, man, at some point they're going to figure it out. They unfortunately did on Saturday in the 7th inning there. That carried over to Sunday. Obviously, scored 5 runs in the shutout win there. And again, it's a tough pill to swallow, but I think hindsight and perspective helps things out a lot here because absolutely nobody expected Ashley Chastain's Water team to be here in this position year number 1, playing host to a powerhouse blue blood like UCLA.
And that was the big point, is that UCLA, I think a lot of folks, again, maybe if you're not as familiar with softball or who was going on, maybe you only follow the SEC as far as softball. UCLA is a powerhouse. They are a blue blood. They are a traditional team that has won a lot in college softball.
Saturday, they've clinched more College World Series trips than any other softball program.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, or Sunday when they won the thing. That was more trips to Oklahoma City than any other program's ever had.
And that was the part about the victory that made me really nervous out of game 2, because we had them.
Yes.
And not saying that they were underestimating or sleeping on us, but they come into Columbia, South Carolina, probably not on the radar for a lot of those girls that are playing out there, a lot of those women that are playing out there.
Sure.
Coming into a sleepy town, maybe not as respected as Oklahoma or Texas or some other SEC schools. So there's a little bit of that happening. We jump up on them. We almost finished the job. And it's almost like at some point UCLA remembered who they were. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot we were great.
It's kind of like all those years watching Nick Saban's Alabama teams, and you'd have, in Arkansas maybe jump up on them, 21-7 or something like that. And you're like, all right, that's cool. They're going to come back at some point. They're going to get a stop on 3rd down, and then you're going to blink, and it's going to be 42-21, and that's going to be the final score of the game. You can't hold programs like that down forever, and unfortunately, South Carolina found that out the hard way because, again, UCLA only really played a great 8 innings out of 21 this weekend, but it was the most important 8, the last inning of Saturday and the following 7 on Sunday.
That's a great point, yeah. So if you go inning by inning, they didn't win the series. No. But they won the most important ones, the weighted ones.
Exactly. And that's all you need to do.
And that's all you had to do. So, the culmination of a great season. Columbia showed out. It looked great on TV.
Oh, it looked phenomenal.
It looked phenomenal. As a tremendous atmosphere. The people were fired up. Everybody showed up. And it just goes to our bigger point that I think we've said this over and over and over again. And I hope the athletic department understands this. Hey, if you give the fans something to cheer for, they will show up.
Yes. This, obviously, town is ingrained with any program that's part of the university, and when you're winning, people show up. When you feel like the coach cares about your community, is ingrained in it, like Ashley Chastain Woodard is, people will show up and support you. And obviously, like I said, it's a tough pill to swallow to see it end that way, but nobody expects them to be there. And this is going to create so much excitement going into next season. They're going to be nationally ranked. They're going to be talked about, one of the best programs in all of college softball. And this hopefully is the trajectory of this program for the next however many years.
Yeah, so we'll continue talking about that. Other than that, huge gearhead weekend
Yeah.
this weekend for my and it's I'm glad that I have y'all in here this weekend because Jen, you made it back safely.
I was gonna ask,
even though you're spinning on two wheels, you
Jen,
made it back.
When did you get back exactly is the most important question.
About 9 o'clock last night, we just drove straight through from Indy.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, how long is that?
Well, it should be like about 9.5, but you stop, and
yeah.
whatever to try to give yourself a break. So yeah, I mean we left about 8:45 in Indy. You got home about 8:30
A
last 9 o'clock
leisurely,
last night.
stroll home.
Now, how long did you sit in traffic after the race?
From our parking spot to the hotel up in Fishers, it was right at 2 hours. So
That's not
believe
bad.
it or not, it was better.
I had a buddy of mine that just kind of at the last second got tickets to the race and drove up there, and I was texting back and forth with him on Sunday and asked him, I was like, oh, how long did you sit in traffic? And he's like, really, not at all, which
Wow.
I don't know if they changed the flow of traffic or the way they're doing things, but I always thought that, well, you're just going to be sitting there for the next 4 hours and you better get comfortable.
Yeah, and it still was. I mean, it took us probably 45 minutes to get out of our grass lot. And, as I mentioned before, a lot of these lots are in neighborhoods or
Yeah.
just off of a neighborhood and stuff like that. But we noticed they changed some traffic flow coming in. It took us straight up an hour, and that was it, to get to the track in the morning, which that was pretty amazing.
And this is an hour with. Did I hear 275,000? What
Oh,
number did I?
it's over
What number
300,000.
did I hear?
300,000,
Over
yeah.
300,000.
1 in 1,000 Americans was at that event on Sunday.
Over 300. You think about that hour for
Yes.
300,000.
Yeah, not
Sometimes
bad.
the 4 hours you spend coming out of Williams Bryce
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, that's a
for
good point.
80,000. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
they have it obviously figured
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, they have their moments, but I think trying to kind of get things out of the neighborhood and kind of get over to some of the main roads like Crawfordsville and all that. But it is interesting to see all the shifting that they're doing to everything's one lane going all the way, one direction, 6 lanes or whatever. Just getting everybody to the interstates is basically what they're doing.
Yeah. So huge race weekend. We'll come back. We'll have a lot of discussion about that. But when we come back, obviously we'll continue discussing the softball heartbreak because it was a great series. It was a great show for Columbia, and there's more analysis that needs to be done. This is the early game. Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield? No problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home and looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. I say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
One accident to make you aware of this morning. I-77 southbound at exit 15A. That looks like Percival Road there. So we are looking at the right lane being closed. So try to stay left if you can, but definitely a slowdown there this morning. And your forecast, we're just kind of rain is going to be in the weather pattern for this week. Couple passing showers today, 70 for the high. Then we at least get into the 80s. 84 tomorrow, 83 on Wednesday, 81 or 84 tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. We're going to be thrown off having Monday off. 83 on Thursday, 81 on Friday. Chances for isolated or scattered storms each and every day. Right now, overcast and 61.
I do. I mean, obviously the result didn't work in our favor, but I can tell you that we had a lot of conversation about it. I told the broadcasters when I met with them before the game, obviously we were heartbroken right after the game yesterday, and there was a lot of emotion. We quickly debriefed, and we brought the team back here last night, late, right before bed, and we just kind of talked about who we were and kind of just flushing the game and moving on as quickly as possible. I honestly, being transparent, I felt like we did not do a good job of that at Auburn. If you think back to the regular season and the rain delay, we all remember that, right? And so I felt like, okay, we learned our lesson once, in that scenario, like we didn't show up that well the next day, the Saturday game at Auburn. So I felt like it was the right thing, to have some more conversation about it. And it was great conversation. And I really did feel like this morning when we showed up to team breakfast that we had moved on emotionally, but we just didn't get the job done on the field. I felt like, offensively, we just didn't have enough production. You can see that from the box score. We didn't walk enough. We struck out too much. And, hats off to, Terry and Tinsley. They had a really great day. And sometimes that happens. And unfortunately today, it just didn't go our way at the plate.
That's Coach Ashley Chastain Woodard talking about how her team approached Game 3 of the series after what was a devastating loss in Game 2. If you weren't here in the first segment, if you didn't see over the weekend, women's softball takes the L, losing to UCLA over the weekend after a heartbreaking walk-off home run. And I have to be...
That was definitely a walk-off.
I know I'm on the bad side of history here, but that was a real-life, real deal, bona fide dictionary walk-off home run by UCLA in the bottom of the 7th inning in Game 2. And there she was just talking about how they tried to approach Game 3, and it is almost an impossible task.
Sure.
I mean, you can come to the field, you can debrief, we can talk, we can all be, we can flush it, 24-hour rule, however you want to slice it. But, man, just thinking about you, it's not that they lost Game 2. It's that they lost Game 2 in that fashion, and they were so close.
Yeah, and it feels like, again, the momentum just shifted from there. And obviously, you saw UCLA dominate the game on Sunday to wrap up the series, and there is something to be said as well for experience this deep into the tournament. And I believe
Bingo.
Quincy Lilo, the leadoff, who was at Oklahoma prior to coming here, was the only one that has ever experienced a super regional before, as opposed to UCLA, who's been to 3 of the last 4 Women's College World Series. Like, all those girls on that team, outside of the freshmen, I guess, are experienced with these deep runs going into the tournament. So, yeah, I think that's just something that kind of played to their advantage, that as soon as they got the momentum on their side, it carried over to Sunday, and they're obviously able to dominate from there and get themselves back for, I believe, a 33rd time to Oklahoma City, which is just an insane thing to say. But again, we kind of knew that coming into the weekend. That was a program that historically has been one of the best ever in this game, and South Carolina was going to have to slay that dragon. And it certainly, I think, caught a lot of people by surprise when they quickly jumped on them early, on Friday, get out to that lead, and, were able to manage that gap from there and nearly run ruled. And that was the thing. They nearly run ruled them on Friday, which would have been even more surprising, and carried that over to Saturday through the first 6 innings of that game. But as soon as that momentum switched, South Carolina was not able to get it back.
Yeah, when you talk about surprising a lot of people, on the power rankings of people that surprised, I think you would have UCLA and then the commentators.
Yep.
Because, man, if you were listening to that game, you would have... let's just say, I won't say that they were biased, but let's say they were in expectation of UCLA winning.
Yeah.
And so it was this conversation like, oh, I can't believe what's happening. Wow, this is a surprise. As if this South Carolina team had not participated in the SEC and not earned this game.
And that is one of those things that you can put as goals going forward. In the next handful of years, make it where that's not shocking. Make it where when you're beating up on UCLA or whoever may be, Oklahoma maybe, perhaps, then nobody's saying, oh, wow, I can't believe South Carolina's doing this. It then becomes, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
This is a team we expect to be here. Matter of fact, I believe Coach Woodard talked about this. Jen, can we get clip number 6 where they talked about earning national respect? Because there was an element of, oh, look at the cute little underdogs against David and Goliath sort of story that they – if you listen to the broadcast, it was not hard. They didn't hide it very well.
Sure.
Jen, can we get clip number 6 here?
I just love this place so much. And, in the process of building the team and the wins and the losses, and I don't know, like I fell back in love with this place, and so I'm just really excited for the future. I really am. And I think that the respect that we earned on a national level in softball, I think is really a big deal for me. And, the success that we had in the league, and I said from the beginning, that I wanted to get the league from the bottom to the middle. I felt like if we could get ourselves up in the middle of the league standings that, we'd have a chance to host. And, obviously that came true for us. So I thought that was a huge step in the right direction. Obviously for me, the bright spots are the people. And so I could probably sit here for 5 hours and talk about individual, Sam Gress stories and Ari Rhodey, Lexi Winters, Abby Knight stories, and down the roster. But the great thing about coaching is that you're able to stay connected with all of the people that you coach. And, I'm excited for the next step in their lives and being a part of those conversations. And, that's a huge part of the mentorship that happens behind the scenes of helping them be prepared for the next step in life. So, I don't know if I could pick one thing. It's really all of it. It's been a dream come true. It's been wonderful every day to lead the program. And, I'm going to continue to do my best to lead the program, and so that we're talking about something different next year.
We'll come back to this conversation. Obviously, this will be our main guidepost for the show. But the big part of Ashley Chastain Woodard's transformation for this team was that she used the transfer portal, and she was very successful in the portal. And she just mentioned some of the players in that statement just now. Sam Gress, obviously a pitcher who did very well for them this year, who's leaving. So
she was a sixth-year senior.
Check her birth certificate. Yeah. All right, possibly. But Ariana Rhodey and Lexi Winters are coming back.
Yes.
So some of the people that she brought from Charlotte came with her, had a lot of success. And one of the things she mentioned, I was reading this in the Post and Courier, Coach Woodard mentioned was that the softball portal was open, and they were playing home games this week.
Yep.
Might have been some visitors in the stands watching the games.
There is no better recruiting tool than hosting a regional or super regional and winning at least part of it. Obviously, the weekend didn't go the way that it was, but that's kind of one of those things that as soon as the series ends, you point to those girls in the stand and you say, hey, come join us, and you can help us get past this next year.
Yeah, if the portal was open and you wanted to watch a place where there was, and this is why the atmosphere is so important. This is why winning is so important. This is why showing out. If you want to come to a place where you can win, this might be some place that you're looking for. So overall, it's a successful season. We'll come back. We'll have a little bit more discussion about that. As we move forward, though, today is Transfer Portal Tuesday, and there was some news for baseball.
Yes.
That I didn't expect, to be honest. I did not expect. So there was some news. We'll come back and we'll have the discussion about baseball and transfer portal. This is the early game. Preston here for Integrated Media. 96 days. We've been telling you, what are you waiting for? The spring's gone. The summer is here. Call the folks at Integrated Media to get your outdoor setup ready. Time is dwindling. Pretty soon it'll be 90 days, then 80 days, 50 days. But right now, you still have 96 days, and you can still call to get your outdoor setup ready. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors, so you can be watching all your sporting events at once. Could have been watching softball, racing, NBA playoff basketball. All you could have done outside on what was a decent weather weekend. So call the folks at Integrated Media. Get your home theater set up, whether you want to get your home theater set up, adjust your thermostat, or monitor the security system from your cell phone. Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
I-77 southbound at Percival Road, an accident there. Also some stop-and-go traffic. I-77 southbound between I-20 and Percival Road. So be careful in those areas. We are looking at rain throughout the week, basically. Passing showers today, a high of 70. Then it warms up. 84 on Wednesday, 83 on Thursday. Chances for scattered storms pretty much each and every day. Keep this pattern until Saturday when that should clear out. But right now, overcast and 61.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. Big weekend. A lot of sports happening. Sports on the field. And since it's Transfer Portal Tuesday, Tyler,
Yep.
there was sports off the field. The phrase is, run it back. Seen it in big, bold print over the weekend. And to be quite honest, I was a little bit surprised. A little bit shocked, honestly, to see. And what am I talking about? Two major pieces for Gamecock baseball have made it the declarations that they are coming back. That is KJ Scobie and Bo Hollins.
Yes.
They have made it clear. First and third base, cornerstones of the team, young players have made it very clear that they are coming back to this team. Why is that important? Because after the reporting that was done last week, the conversation that we had going into Thursday and Friday, you probably would have assumed nobody was coming back.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by it, and even before we knew everything going on behind the scenes based on John Whittle's reporting, I said that these are going to be among two of your hardest guys to hang on to, because obviously, coming out of high school, even the highly touted guys only generate so much buzz. So to come in and have the success that they had individually in their first year in the SEC, I imagine their phones are blowing up left and right. Like, hey, come play for us instead of playing for South Carolina. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. I imagine they were probably given a lot of offers. Now, we did hear, and according to John Whittle's reporting, South Carolina was going to get more money to spend on the baseball program coming up in 2026. I imagine a decent amount probably went to these two guys at least to allow them to come back. Also have to throw in their Talmadge Lee Croy as well, coming back for another year. That's via medical red shirt. He played in one game under the limit to where he would not have been eligible for another year. So kind of lucked out in that regard. And so you get three key contributors back from the team this year. Now, again, wasn't a great season, but at least these guys were among the better performing ones individually from this past season. So that's something. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and say we're all going to be jazzed and excited when February rolls around, because it seems like the entire coaching staff is returning, but at least you have some guys that you are going to be familiar with from this past year.
Well, yeah, also to that point of the running back, it feels like everybody on the coaching staff is coming back. So it seems like they're going to be granted another year, another opportunity. So, I mean, you can make your choice now however you feel, or maybe once the season goes off a little bit and you relax and you calm down, maybe you see what they can cook up in recruiting.
But somebody's got to say something at some point, right? Like, and I know it was a holiday weekend, so I wasn't expecting a statement on Friday or Monday necessarily, but like Maneri, Donati, like somebody has to address what was said about this team. You can't just ignore it, right?
I think in theory you're right, but it seems like in today's, what you can do today is you can just sort of put your head down. You can just sort of keep your head down and keep it moving. And you don't necessarily have to address the things that are happening without saying anything, because sometimes, listen, things move fast, man. That was all the way back on Friday.
Yeah.
People have been scrolling all weekend. You've seen things that are happening on the weekend between sports world, the real world. Maybe if you don't say anything, it just goes away. And then you start throwing out these run it back graphics.
It's one of the, like, okay, let's just take a small part of that story where we learned that Coach Maneri made the team get changed in the parking lot after the Kentucky game. If that was the only thing that happened, that was the entire story revolved around that one thing, okay, I can see, like, yeah, kind of gets lost in the shuffle of a holiday weekend, not really that big of a deal to a lot of people. But when you had so much stuff in there about the entirety of the season, I feel like that's a little bit different. That again, at some point, somebody has to say something, because I feel like silence is almost more incriminating than anything else. When you're not saying anything, that's telling people that you don't have any rebuttal to defend yourself against what was reported.
Okay, point taken. But maybe there's a strategy here, because what we also saw this weekend, if you don't have a life and you're like me and you're scrolling your life away on social media, couple of endorsements. So Ethan Petrie came out and made essentially as an endorsement. And I don't want to mince his words. I don't want to say what he said. I'm going to say exactly what he said. And this is where we are in 2025. Yes, we are quoting from social media.
Yes.
Because what else are we going to get? What else are we coming from? But Ethan Petrie said, so many great memories in the Garnet and Black for the past 3 years. I know the season didn't turn out the way the fans wanted. Fans, don't always be quick to believe what you read and stay being positive. Our program is in great hands and looking forward to see where it goes. Is that a ringing endorsement? I don't know, but he did say something that he didn't necessarily have to say. On top of that, Roman Kimbrell, who is moving on in the transfer portal.
Yep.
He didn't give a ringing endorsement again, but he also said, like, hey, what my dad said, that's not how I feel. Now, could he be doing that to protect his stock? Obviously, yes. But maybe that's going to be the strategy moving forward, to let the players speak for their experience.
My question with Roman Kimbrell is, and again, we've all seen probably what his dad said on Facebook that upset Maneri, according to John Whittle's story. He had to get that information from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Now, I imagine Roman Kimbrell, perhaps frustrated with what's gone on this season himself, venting to his dad about what was going on behind the scenes. You don't come up with just calling a couple coaches morons for nothing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, there's something baked into that I would imagine would have to come from Roman Kimbrell, right?
Maybe it was a game of telephone. Maybe Roman told his mother, then she told, I don't know.
And lines got crossed along the way of.
I mean, but he clearly, Roman clearly, again, on social media, this is where we are, he clearly disavowed his father's opinion. He's basically like, that wasn't me. I didn't say that. I don't agree with that. Could he be protecting his stock? Yes, he could, obviously. But
that's my thing is, again, he's going in the transfer portal.
That's obvious.
Being looked at by other programs. I don't think he wants other programs thinking, hey, we're going to have to deal with this guy's dad now or something along those lines. So that's probably smart on his part. Whether he's true about, whether he believes what he says about that or not, got to kind of read between the lines and those kind of things sometimes.
And that's where we are. You have to figure things out. What does this mean? Does that mean this? Et cetera, et cetera. You have to figure all those types of situations out.
For Ethan Petrie, who we anticipate is going to be pretty highly picked up in the draft, when draft scouts are asking Coach Maneri, hey, tell us about this kid. Tell us about how he is in the locker room and away from the field and all this kind of stuff. Wouldn't you want to kind of help him out a little bit on your way out by saying, hey, Coach, I know all this negativity is going your way, but I got you, man. Hey, don't believe everything that you read. Like, you're also helping yourself out in a way there.
Yeah, everybody could be protecting themselves. That is absolutely 100% a possibility. I guess what I'm saying is they don't have to do that.
They don't.
And I just wonder where that's coming from, because the way it's interesting how sometimes when you're in these transition moments, there could be a situation where there's them and us, and there could be guys that are on board with the transition and guys who are not on board with the transition. And could there be a faction of guys who are like, no, we're going to get this thing turned around, and guys who are like, no, we're leaving?
Also, you have to wonder, do you think they both read the story? Because here's the thing. Do you think they actually sat down and read the story, or they just heard, hey, somebody wrote something about Coach Maneri and this and this was included in it? Or do you think they actually sat down and read every detail of that? Because, and again, I don't know what's going on in their lives over the course of the holiday weekend. That may not have been something that actually happened.
In my experience working with 20-year-old college students, they did not do the reading.
Probably not. Again, it's kind of...
They don't ever do the reading.
It's kind of the second-hand thing of like, hey, man, somebody wrote this bad thing about Coach Maneri.
Was it in a series of tweets and or stories on Snapchat?
Yeah, somebody may have cut it up that way, but not to my knowledge. So I do also wonder, like, again, did they actually sit down and read the entire thing? Did they know what all was in there? I don't know. Again, we're not going to get answers to these questions necessarily, but there's a lot of layers to this.
That's my point, and I think that's the bigger point of this. This is, and that's why when John Whittle came out with his story, which was highly sourced, verified, reported.
Yeah, and
nobody's doubting that.
There's nobody deeper in the weeds of Gamecock baseball than him.
We 100% understand that. So that's not what we're saying. What I did say at the time is that there'll be fallout from this story. There'll be other pieces to this story that'll be told, other truths.
Sure.
People will get a chance to tell their sides of the story. You asked a great question, though. Will the admin come back and either address their story directly and or indirectly by actions that they have over the summer. And I guess that's yet
These
to be
are
seen.
Very bold accusations
Yes.
against your head coach. Like, I don't think you can stay silent on it.
Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. We'll keep up with that on Transfer Portal Tuesday, because things will be moving, not just in baseball, but all around. But my Gearhead friends had a big weekend this weekend, and Jen went to watch the Indy 500. But more importantly, we can all go back to middle school. Wieners on the early game. Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom and pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, we're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has you covered. A huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers and all the gear that you need to tackle any outdoor project. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
as we take a look.
Out of the slipstream, out of the toe, has the momentum, and fires it past.
And when you're talking about wieners that big, the draft is just so powerful at those speeds.
But timing it is so difficult. We've seen it in countless Indy 500s. Drivers pulling out too early, drivers pulling out too late. But right now, that was the perfectly timed pass. Less than a wiener length was the difference across the line.
And while we talk of the joy and the emotion for Slaw Dog, what about for Chai Dog, who had done such a phenomenal job all the way through the inaugural Weenie 500?
There you see, photo finish right there. Truly, excellence on display here at the Speedway.
Yes, I know there was some major races this weekend. Yes, the longest NASCAR race. Yes, the Indy 500, Monaco, whatever. But most importantly, the inaugural Weenie 500, Tyler.
Jen, I think. Oh, she got a weenie whistle.
I got a weenie whistle
One
this
more time
weekend.
on the weenie whistle.
Jen, I think we have a new Indianapolis tradition on our hands. What would you say?
Oh my, you have no idea how well this was received. You couldn't find the official Weenie 500 shirt. Like, those were gone. They were rock stars in the Midway as far as like the winning dog, you know, the Slaw Dog. They had a great setup where they had these little Matchbox car races, little weenie or Oscar Mayer Wienermobile Matchbox cars, and you could win one of those. I mean, they had a great setup there. But people loved this thing. It was literally huge.
Watching this on Carb Day, because I don't know, there's probably, what, 50, 60, 70,000 people there on Carb Day watching the final practice, pitch stop competition, all that kind of stuff. They were into it. Everybody there was into this thing. And you heard the commentary there with Will Buxton, Townsend Bell, and James Hinchcliffe. They leaned into this thing. Again,
They did it beautifully. It was a real race.
This is the most serious weekend in all of motorsports, but they took 10 minutes to just have fun on Friday. And hats off to everyone, because phenomenal on all fronts.
Yeah,
So
I could see this
So
happening.
the Slaw Dog representing the South.
The South one, yep.
Yeah.
South.
A slingshot pass coming to the checkered flag.
What a major,
The slowest
major move.
slingshot pass you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
So for those that don't know, so the Slaw Dog was representing the Southeast. You had the Seattle Dog, the Seattle Dog, which is a cream cheese caramelized onions, I believe. That's how they make that.
I don't
be
know.
interesting to
I don't know.
try.
I don't know about that
It's
one.
an interesting try. The New York Dog. Then they had the Chicago Dog for all that was represented, and then it says it's a chili dog that was representing the South as a whole. I don't know about that. So it was,
I didn't hear as much about that one. That may
Okay.
have been one that was towards the back the entire time. I think
might have been not coming. up.
was it six total?
Yes,
Six,
six total. So we're just saying weenies mean more in the Southeast, right?
I guess
we,
so.
We have to defend this from
Yeah.
now on. Not only are we the best in football and softball, but Weenie Dog Mobile, we have to defend this.
Well, that's the thing, is not only did they make this successful, they brought regional pride into it as well. I did not think I was going to be cheering for a specific Wienermobile based on where I live.
See, but here's the thing. So
Brilliant.
you might be cheering for your favorite topping,
Sure.
or you could be cheering for your region, but oftentimes the region is your favorite topping.
That's true.
So that's
Yep.
where you get caught up, and it's like, no, I'm definitely cheering for the Slaw Dog.
Yep.
What else would I do?
And it was fun for me because the Chicago Dog came in second. So it was the Chicago Dog and the Slaw Dog that were, battling it out the end. So it was like, okay, I felt really good. I had pride on both sides.
You were well represented.
Absolutely.
Well
Yeah.
represented
Good
in
stuff.
this race. Yeah, this was a phenomenal race. If you haven't seen it, Tyler says I need to go watch
Yeah,
the whole race.
it's about
Yes.
they only did 2 laps because they're going so slow. But you can find the full 10-minute race on YouTube. Count the amount of hot dog jokes that are made on commentary that entire time. You will be on the floor
Endless
laughing.
puns.
and
And then instead of the milk bath or a champagne bath or something, they sprayed mustard.
As they should.
Yeah, as they should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't help but go revisit your inner sixth grader,
Yes.
seventh grader when you listen to the Weenie Mobile.
We will relish in this for a long time.
Exactly.
That was a great one. Yeah. So big race weekend for the Weenie 500. The Slaw Dog comes out on top. There's nothing better than silly races. Mascots,
Sure.
weenie dogs. You've seen the babies crawling.
Yeah.
I mean,
Beat the freeze.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm here for any dumb race. I am signing up for it. All right, when we come back, we'll have some more discussion about the most important thing, which unfortunately I told you all what a walk-off was, and now I actually have a very poor example for Gamecock Nation. We'll come back and talk a little bit more softball. This is the early game.
An earlier accident on I-77 southbound has been clear. The shoulder is still kind of blocked as they finish moving the cars away. So just be mindful and try to stay to your left. But the accident itself is off the highway. 70 for the high today with some passing showers. We are looking at 84 tomorrow, 83 on Thursday, 81 on Friday. Chances for scattered storms each and every day. We get out of this rain pattern on Saturday, and then should be sunny for at least Saturday and maybe into Sunday. Right now, though, we are sitting at 61.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We're having a lot of conversation. Obviously, if you just missed the last segment, you might have missed the highlight of the weekend. There was a lot of things happening this weekend. Big racing weekend, including the Weenie 500, which 500 and they only did 2 laps.
Yeah, so technically it was the Weenie 5.
Weenie 5?
Yeah, because 2.5 miles, 2 laps. So
all right.
I think the branding of the Weenie 500 sounds a little bit better.
It works. It's obviously a huge success. The first one, and I imagine this is going to continue.
It has to.
I can't imagine it won't. I mean, it was huge.
I imagine Carb Day's attendance is probably going to go up next year just because of this.
Yeah, the bad thing is they need to figure out how to make it because it's like $45 to get in for Carb Day.
Yeah.
Which if you just wanted to go for, to watch like pit crew competition, the final practice, you don't want to stay for all the Carb Day, like because there's a big concert in the infield and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to stay for that. I wish they would give you like 2 options, different wristbands or something, because if a family wants to go in and kind of see that race and maybe see a practice, but they don't want to stay for the other. So that's just my little political thing. I'd like to see them, work that out.
Well, I'm sure they're working on it because it's huge success. Obviously, again, my experience was experiencing it through socials, which it seemed like it was everywhere. You being there in person, seeing the turnout and seeing the people. And then obviously, Tyler, you having that expertise and people are really into this, into it. So listen, sports, do stuff, do cool things, have fun with these events.
Savannah Bananas say what?
Yeah, have fun with these events. People want to show up and
there's
be there.
nothing wrong with being silly sometimes.
Listen, as I said last break, any stupid race I'm here for. You put the mascots in a race, you put the babies in a race, Mr. Freeze, whatever. I will watch it and I will be into it, and I will watch them all. And so you want to see that. Now you talked about the environment, moving into the conversation we're having about softball, who obviously took a devastating loss this weekend. And I'm not even sure that's a good enough word. Heartbreaking, devastating.
Gut-wrenching.
I'm not being hyperbolic. This is probably the worst case scenario you could have.
Because you literally go from the highest of highs of like, man, one more pop fly, one more throw to first base, and you're going to Oklahoma City for the first time in 30 years to, in the blink, that one pitch. And again, you bring it, and again, Jory Hurd and Sam Gress have been pitcher 1A and 1B for this team the entire year. Okay, if Sam Gress come back in, all right, she's going to get a handle on this. We're going to be able to walk out of here with a victory. And then just one pitch, and it goes over the fence.
You talk about a blink, it's almost like, oh, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
Everybody's sort of looking around, and it was in that quick, the whole momentum of the series changes.
You may, in the process of the pitching change, you may have, hey, let me go grab a beer real quick. Let me go get another hot dog or whatever it may be, and you come back, and the game's over.
Yep.
And it happens that fast.
That quickly. In the true definition of a walk-off. Throw one pitch, walk it off, and now you have to try and figure out how are we going to recover from this to play game 3. And I would position that they're not robots.
Yeah.
And I don't care how resilient you are and the grit and all the things that they obviously have, man. Coming back and playing after losing that way is extremely difficult.
And for any of us that have played sports at any kind of level, when you feel like you're about to win something, you get that little bit of extra, like you're excited, you're joyous and all that kind of stuff. And you can kind of take your eye off the ball a little bit. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but getting refocused when you feel like you've already got something locked up is very hard to do.
You hear the cliches, to stay in the moment. it's hard to stay in the moment when you're 1 out away
Sure.
from your dreams, from place. These women, many of these women who came through the transfer portal were in Charlotte last year.
Yes.
With very little chance of ever going to the World Series. And now they're here. Now they made it, and they're this close to getting there. And
You're thinking about seeing your family after the game and celebrating with your teammates and, oh, man, what's going to be like going to Oklahoma City? And, again, I'm not saying that's why they lost this game, but, again, when you're kind of blinking saying, oh, crap, we're in a one-run game all of a sudden, got to get refocused here, it's a hard thing to do.
Well, Coach Woodard, after game 3, as you said, Tyler, after the last 8 innings, because they won the first, what was that? The
13.
First 13,
Yep.
but the last 8, they did not win. Coach Ashley Chastain would have talked about the season and how it was a successful season.
It's hard. I think the older I get and the more experience I have, I think the game is so much bigger. Like, our purpose this year was so much bigger. Just everything that we did, the success that we had. I mean, it'll stick with me for a long time that we came short. I can tell you that. I can say that. I will hold on to that for a while. But I just really want to evaluate the year, and it's like, okay, like, at the end of the day, what are the things that kept us so out of Oklahoma? Like, what are those things? And really evaluate that, and the staff and I will, we'll have those conversations about, okay, how can we get better? And, you do your best not to put yourself in this position ever again. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you just have to move on in some ways, but you also have to learn from the full year. And, I have so much pride and so much gratitude for the success that we did have. And I definitely want to celebrate that with my family. My husband is here, Robert, and, just being able to celebrate it with the staff, I think, is also really important, because it is a lot of work, and we did have a lot of success when people really didn't think we would. So there's a lot of really great things in that. So it's hard. You have to balance it all. This profession is really tough. And I want to be a really great example to the players and everyone here that, you can have it all, you can be it all. So it'll probably take me through the summer to achieve everything I just said, but we'll get there before school starts in the fall.
I love that last point about it'll take them to get through the summer, because it's going to be very hard to have appreciation and gratitude right now in this moment.
Sure, and look, we're all human. It can be tough to shake those kind of things off. I appreciate that honest answer instead of like, it's just business as usual. Like, no, and again, Ashley Chastain Woodard, you could hear it in some of the clips we played this morning. Emotional, wears her heart on her sleeve. We saw that in her introductory press conference almost a year ago, where she was in tears of being able to coach at her alma mater. So yeah, this is going to take a little bit of time, and that's understandable.
Yeah, it's not just a thing where you just shake it off and you say, we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You don't pull something like that.
Now, eventually, can you get to the point where this program is so good that you can shake these kind of things off? Absolutely, and that's kind of the goal, like we said, to where the commentary team calling your game is not shocked that, oh my God, I can't believe South Carolina has beaten UCLA. Like, you want to get to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah, you want to move there, but it's going to take them a while. There's going to be, I would imagine, there's a lot of women probably just laying in bed, just replaying, and as I've told this to Jen, as I get older, I don't really get happy about the wins anymore, but I get really sad for the losses. I think about, like, Sam Gress, like, you've been great all year, and just she's gonna replay that pitch over and over and over in her head for a long, long time, and I hope she eventually comes to the understanding that she's been great all year. She had a success. Everything is good. And then sometimes you just come up a little bit
She's a
short.
significant reason why they got to where they got.
100%.
You hear this from a lot of professional athletes. The joy of winning does not outweigh the pain of losing. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's kind of the cold reality that a lot of those girls are probably facing today. Some of them whose softball career is over. Yeah. Like, that was the last time they will ever play outside of, for fun or whatever, like a organized, professional-esque type of softball. That Saturday or Sunday for them was the last time, possibly.
Yeah, and this is why, and I guess the last thing I'll say about this when we come back around to it is that you can't just only measure success by championships or trips to, because this team by any stretch, by any measurement, by any metric, was a tremendously successful season. Yes, they came up short, but that happens. That happens a lot of time in athletics. They ran up against a team who has been there, who has been through these experiences before, and they made a play, and you didn't. And that's sports, that's reality, that's life. But the women were tremendously successful. Shout out to Coach Woodard, who had a great year. You'll get there eventually.
Yes.
But probably now is not going to be the time where you're so appreciative, but eventually we will get there.
When you do get there, the appreciation and excitement will be even more because of how close you came here. You were 1 out away, and maybe it's next year, hopefully, when you do finally punch that ticket to Oklahoma City, I think it's going to be that much sweeter because you did come so close this time around.
Well, this is always part of the sports stories that we love is the redemption.
Yes.
You can look at any of these stories. You can look across the way. Look at Coach Staley's program. You have to knock on the door a couple of times before you sort of kick it down, and that might be where they are in the building of this program. But nevertheless, it's exciting. It's going to be really fun to see how this program grows. And as she stated, the transfer portal opened for softball a couple of weeks ago, and throughout, even though we're still following NCAA rules, she did point out to say that there were several women in attendance who might be able to help this team in the future. So we'll get a look at that. All right, coming up next, we'll come talk to our guy, J.C. Sherbert. June is here. If you're old like me, June didn't mean a lot to you as far as college football was concerned. If you're young like Tyler, June might mean everything. And I want to get J.C. to sort of break down what happens in June and why we need to pay a lot more attention in June than maybe we used to in the past. This is the early game.
Earlier accidents have been cleared, so good news in that respect. Shouldn't see any more major slowdowns at this time. Damp conditions out there, so just be mindful of maybe a little bit of standing water. 70 for the high today, a couple passing showers possible. 84 tomorrow, 83 on Thursday, 81 on Friday. Each of those days, chances for a scattered, pop-up thunderstorm. Right now, it's overcast and again, a little damp out there. It is 61 on the early game.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We are joined now by J.C. Sherbert. And J.C. Sherbert, before we get to, let's take care of the serious stuff first. What's your mileage on the Chicago dog? I know you're in the area. What's your mileage on it? Are you Chicago dog first, or do you have a preferred hot dog? Preferred weenie, I should say, in homage to the Weenie 500.
Yes, it wouldn't. It's probably not Oscar. Yeah, they have Vienna beef up here. That's the best hot dog I've had as far as weenie goes. Right, It's a little different. It's a little bit of the South because Chicago style is it's drugged through the garden. It's got a pickle and relish and a tomato on it. And onions. Mustard, never ketchup. That's a rule in Chicago. Can't put ketchup on.
That's a huge rule, right? You cannot do ketchup.
Correct.
Oh, that's on you. I mean, it's not
Them's fighting
negotiable.
Words. Yeah.
Sacrilegious almost.
I don't think I can ever go to Chicago then.
I also like chili mustard. The southern way.
Okay.
Chili mustard and onions. Yeah, that's a good hot dog for me too. So it's they say that when you eat a hot dog, it takes a minute and a half off your life. I don't want to do the math on that one.
Well, listen, a minute and a half is not very long, and it's worth it. And, probably count me down for about 10 minutes worth coming up here soon when the 4th of July rolls up.
Yeah, it is. Oh, man. Yeah, goodness gracious. But they don't like, up here, if you get it grilled, that's against the rules, too, because they call that a char dog.
Gotcha.
That's different. That's a different category.
There are so many rules of hot dogs I was not aware of.
Well, because this is a very important piece of our food culture here.
The hot dog rules. That's a good top 10 list. 10, and it's regional, too. I mean, there's rule. I mean, California, they put all kinds of stuff on hot dogs. They kind of ruined it. But,
to be expected. To be expected.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, JC, listen, man. You've been preaching this, and I think our listeners need to hear this, and even myself being somebody who was involved and played college football a long time ago. Back in my day, JC, June was sleepy. You come in, you work out, you go to summer one classes, kind of a laid back. I mean, you're working out, but it's kind of a laid-back month. That is not the case anymore. And I guess what I'm asking you, JC, is what all is happening? What do all the listeners need to know that's going down during the month of June today, in today's college football landscape?
Well, so these days, like it used to be, you didn't even bring in your freshmen until August. Now, it's usually at the absolute latest. They come in Memorial Day, like now. So they're moving. And so the rest of the freshmen, Donovan Murph, Mike Tyler, both those kids from there in Columbia, they're all moving in. The second portal window guys, I guess, I didn't really know what to call it on my podcast this morning. I guess I said the adult group. I don't know. There's some younger players in there too, but the older guys. So they're all in. And so what the team does is it's you can do a little football work. I think you can have some workouts without the ball and meeting time. things like that. So they're working on actual football. What they're really doing is working with Luke Day and the strength staff. It's all about just kind of like in your day, getting bigger, stronger, faster. Teams don't really wait around till fall camp to do that. The conditioning part of it. They have access to world-class facilities and world-class coaches, so you may as well take advantage of it. Get ahead academically so you don't have to worry about the full load in the fall. But so it's all about getting body and mind right. And I think this staff does a really good job, Luke Day and Chip Morton and those guys, and Derek Moore, of approaching the mental and team bonding side of it. I mean, that was a together team, and really all four of Shane Beamer's teams have been together teams. I mean, they even in 2023, that season turned out like everybody wanted, but they never quit. I mean, they were sitting there at 2-6 and found the gumption to avoid an upset against Jack State and beat the crap out of Vandy. And then one of the most resilient games of the Beamer era was that win over Kentucky with we call it the Darude game, and a great atmosphere. So I think all that stuff, all the groundwork for that stuff is laid in the summer, because with so much transition and all that, you have a lot of newcomers, and so there's not a lot of time to let that naturally. I mean, it does naturally take place, but you got to kind of get in there and get working on it, so you'll have a together team and all that good stuff. Plus, like I said, bigger star. There's some guys that have to make some gains physically, this summer to really be the players that they want to be. And then on recruiting, June is the new January. Yeah. And now, and I mentioned this earlier today too, Preston. It's back in the day, if you'd have told me South Carolina was going to have all their official visits in June, I mean, I don't know. I would have had a pretty negative emotional reaction to it, because it just wasn't a place that was as appealing during summer as it is now. Now, they've done this for about 10 years. I think the number's right around half that they've signed that have come in for officials during the summer, and you get the beautiful new facility and do a great job. The upgrades around the city of Columbia, too, help. I mean, I remember the summer of 1999 and 2000. I was in Columbia work, and it becomes a sleepy, hot place, yes. Or did. But now you got a lot of big new buildings, and they have a pool. There's just there's more going on.
Correct.
Than there used to be. So if you're battling a Clemson on the lake or a Chapel Hill where it's just gorgeous in the summer and all that, you can kind of counteract that because of the improvements that have been made.
You mentioned a moment ago Donovan Murph essentially joining the team last night as they get things rolling for the summer. A lot of hype around him coming into his freshman year. How much of a disadvantage is it for him to not have been part of spring stuff, and how does that potentially hinder him to getting on the field this fall?
I don't know that it's necessarily a disadvantage for him. He's a talented guy, but what it does, because all five of the other ones enrolled early. Actually enrolled for bowl practice, and so they enrolled super duper early. I guess that's what you could call that. So is he going to be? I don't think he's going to be behind physically. He's 185 pounds. Some of those receivers that came in are going to have to bulk up a little bit, but he's physically ready to go. But as it compares to the other guys, obviously you got to catch up because you're doing stuff for the first time and all that stuff. Now, he's local, and I'm sure he's got a playbook and has been studying it and repping it and all that. I still think he'll be in the 2D this year and play, barring injury or setbacks or anything like that, just because we do have a more narrow window. You turn an ankle and you miss a week of spring, you can catch back up. But if you turn an ankle and you miss something in preseason, you weren't here in spring, and other guys were, that could be an issue. I hope that doesn't happen to anybody, but just kind of pondering the what ifs. But I still have expectations for him to go out and play. He's probably one of those guys that's, when all is said and done, too good to keep off the field.
You said two things when you were speaking, and we'll come back to the wide receivers here in a minute. You said two things that struck me and resonated with my experience when I was playing, is that during the summer you get a chance to take some courses, which lightens your course load throughout the year. I don't think I ever took more than 12 hours because of my summer school classes. And look, you don't want to be taking 15 to 18 hours during the fall when you're in season. So that's one of the reasons. That's one of the benefits of the summer. And then the other thing you said, JC, is that the team just gets to hang. A lot of hanging with the fellas, a lot of camaraderie, and that's sort of what you want to have building into this summer, where the team solidifies themselves as a team. Without the guidance of the coaches, you sort of see who emerges as leaders and things of that nature. The last thing, JC, is another thing that wasn't happening as much, and I guess it's happening in June, are these prospect camps and all the camps that are happening too, right?
Yeah, official. Yeah, along with official visits.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I think the first camp's June 5th, and it goes for about 2 weeks. And yeah, and they found Nick Imanware
Mm-hmm.
At the camp. He's a pretty good player, right?
I think he was all right.
Yeah, Nick Harbor camped at South Carolina as a like a sophomore. I think the same camp Imanware was at. That was the first exposure to South Carolina for him. So, yeah, there's always a guy that Judge Collier was a camp evaluation. He's going to be a starter at corner next year again. So there's always a couple that pop up, maybe not as much as there used to be, just because everything's so advanced now. But for 2026, there could be some guys pop up, and 2027 especially. That's the groundwork is being laid there, and we'll see kind of how it all shakes out. There's a few running backs in the state. Trenton Lynch from Spartanburg High School is one of them that are going to camp that could be offer candidates and things like that. So yeah, June is a critical roster building period now, and it's really because of all the portal stuff, guys. It's really like the month you can really focus and dig in on school recruiting, and that's kind of the storyline. So that's good, I think, because it still matters. And if we just have 1 month in the summer to where it's like chaotic and awesome with the high school kids, then that's fine. I'll take that rather than people just not caring. But yeah, the month of June, as far as laying the groundwork for your high school recruiting test, it's everything. It's a big month.
Yeah, June is important, so we'll have a lot of conversation to come back. When we come back, JC, we want to dive a little bit deeper into that wide receiver room, because I'm curious to see what impact you think the freshmen are going to have, and what about the guys that are already in the room. So this is the early game.
Earlier accidents have been cleared. Great news in that respect. And there could be a little bit of standing water out there from some rain overnight. Do be careful. Looking for some potential scattered showers and really throughout the day. It's looking like we'll see those scattered showers. To a high of only 70. 84 tomorrow with isolated storms. 83 on Thursday. 81 on Friday. Scattered storms each and every day are a possibility. But then it should be drying out for the weekend and into next week. Right now, though, it is overcast and 61 in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, really, my message the whole time was how fast can you become a veteran in this, in this program, and that means you better get in, you better get sunk in, you better get your body right, you better get your mind right, you better get caught up, and you better be able to put yourself in a position to compete because I'm not going to look at you as a freshman when you come back here, and at the end of May, and you've had 4 months now to. Be in our system. You've been around our weight program. You've done well in academics and obviously with spring ball. So you have a lot of experience already to get ready for the season. And so my message to them the whole time has really been all of them. How fast can you guys get up to speed to allow you to go play? As a with a better mentality here when you come back in May.
Welcome back into the early game. That was Coach Mike Furry on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, discussing the wide receivers, specifically the freshmen, specifically talking about what he expects out of the freshmen. And you all talked very, very briefly last segment about Donovan Murph, but he's not the only one. There are several others who, JC, I imagine if the Gamecock season is going to go the way we want, there's going to be a freshman that steps up and plays a pretty significant role in this offense, correct?
Yeah, I'd say that's a safe bet at wide receiver, and they're all good players, and you do have the 4 coming back who I think will be better this year, improving, but. I think a lot of that also the older guys are helped by the competition that the freshmen bring in, and these are all really good players, and a lot of them proved they were good in the fall. So I think that when all is said and done, that's a safe bet. Who that will be specifically, I'm not sure. I think that there's a lot of options. Brian Rowe, Malik Clark would probably be, by nose. 2 that I would suspect would be, in the rotation earlier, have a shot. But, Sellers is good. Cyrus is good. Gidron's good. He's younger, but really he has the talent, So I think it's going to be interesting to find out, who ends up playing. But I would be very surprised if at least 1 or 2 of the freshmen weren't regularly in the rotation and making plays this year.
You mentioned those guys coming back. Obviously, a lot of attention gets put on Nick Harbor for his just high-profile status in general. Mazio Bennett, as a freshman, made an impact last year. I feel like in a lot of ways, though, Jared Brown very much flying under the radar in his return. Obviously dealt with injuries a lot last season, but he had some pretty wow plays as the season went on last year when he was healthy. What do you expect out of him potentially in his final year of South Carolina?
Yeah, and I think Mike Fury was right about Jared, kind of adjusting to the way South Carolina wants to use him compared to how he was used at Coastal. And then with him, during the preseason in August last year, Jared Brown, because everybody's kind of obsessed with this wide receiver 1 idea. I personally think, hey, 3 is better than 1. But you kept hearing during all preseason that there was really a good connection with Jared Brown and Lenore Sellers. And then he kind of made some plays early. Had a good game against LSU at Kentucky. And then injuries. And that was an understated part of last year's receiving room. There were just guys in and out of the lineup. Jacobs was hurt. Bennett was hurt at the end. Carolina largely avoided massive injuries on the lines of scrimmage. But, that receiver room really, there wasn't a chance to really get going. And Jared, I think, was one of those guys that it was hard to get going because he was in and out of the lineup. But I heard he had a really good spring and looks like he's ready to take a next step. Boy, he's explosive. That's the one thing, as he showed against Missouri when he took that little slant or whatever that was and scored, right, bubble screen or whatever. He can run off and leave people. And I think that, his skill set is such that if he fine-tunes, he can really make some plays for the Gamecocks here.
So with that being said, help me think about the wide receiver room, and not in terms of wide receiver 1, but more so in terms of what skill sets do they have. If you was to pick 2 guys to go up and get a ball, a la, and this is not comparison, but Alshon Jeffrey's style, who are those guys in this room?
Okay, so there are there's 2. Nick Harbor obviously has at 6'5" that ability, but I'm going to take Nick out of it.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you 2 more. Malik Clark, when you saw the catch in the spring game, and that's one thing you can tell in a spring game is, can he jump and can he catch and does he have body control? Because that's just simple. That doesn't matter. And he had all those things. And so among the freshmen, I think it's him, and then the other guy is also a freshman, Brian Rowe. Brian Rowe is a 5'11", 6-foot guy, but he can they watched him play basketball. He can slam dunk with one hand. He gets his elbow above the rim, was what I was told. And that's I love Shi Smith as a player coming out of high school. And the one of the things I liked about him was I like slot receivers who are fast enough to break away and be that guy that you can send deep or whatever. But Shi's kind of hidden weapon was he could go up in traffic and catch it. And sometimes littler guys can't do, smaller guys. I don't. That sounds like I'm insulting somebody, but like the guys that aren't these plus size guys, you don't necessarily have to be that to go up and get it. And Shi was that type of player, and Brian Rowe definitely is that type of player. So even though they're not 6'5" like Nick Harbor, I think Malik's like 6'2.5", and Rowe's right at his feet. I think those guys are your go up and get it in traffic guys for this year. And then you just always hope that Harbor can go up and get it. The play against Alabama at the end comes to mind, but that was one play. If he can consistently start doing that, look out. I think that's going to be it. And then at tight end, I think Michael Smith has that type of skill set as well as Jordan Dingle, to transfer from Kentucky.
Yeah, well, when you talk about Shi obviously played way bigger than his stats was, because Shi is somebody that if you saw him in the lineup, you probably wouldn't pick him first to be your football player, but he's a guy that made a lot of plays. When we come back, JC, for the last segment, I'm going to ask you about 2 more positions. I want you to give me the guy that can make something out of nothing and the guy when we need a catch on 3rd down, all right?
All right.
All right, cool. When we come back, we'll have that discussion with JC Sherbert. This is the early game. All right, wrapping up with our guy, JC. JC, appreciate you joining us. I asked you a question before we left the break. The first question I asked was, who's the guy that can go up and get it? And you did me a big favor by removing Nick out of the equation because that's the easy answer. So I appreciate that. So 2 more questions as I work through the wide receiver room, because I do like the idea of let's not look for wide receiver 1, but let's look for skill sets. Who is the guy who can make something out of nothing? Or maybe 2. Who are 2 guys that can make something out of nothing?
I'm going to go with Jared Brown on that one, who we just talked about, just based on, his skill set. That he could do that coastal, like make people miss and get up the field. I think that's a big key to the whole receiving core this year, Preston, is yak, yards after catch. If there was one glaring deficiency last year, it was that. They kind of catch the ball and get tackled or whatever. But I think Brown is one. If you're looking for a younger guy, Sellers and Cyrus have those kinds of what they call wiggle. Brian Rowe, I believe, will as well, and Murph. I mean, just about all those guys have that skill set. But if you're looking for a guy that can make you miss in a phone booth or whatever, I would say it's Brown. And then Mazeo Bennett, we haven't seen that from him, but I think that's coming. I think he reminds me a lot of Kenny McKinley, and Kenny developed that part of his game. I'll never forget his sophomore year up at Clemson. They had him tackled, and he made about 3 guys miss and got a first down right there right before the first Mike Davis took it in the end zone. So I think Mazeo has that kind of ability. We just have to see it.
And that's a huge skill that you need, especially when, say if the offense is struggling or you need to make something happen. And I guess the last thing for as far as if it's third down, possession receiver sometimes is seen as a pejorative, but it's a key part of your offense. Who's a guy that would be the person that you want to throw it to on third down that they can get you a first?
I'm going to go with Bennett on that one, but I think if we think about what Nick Harbor has, like what we've seen out of Nick Harbor, he catches just about everything. But between the 2, I think that could be Bennett. And Bennett's not a possession receiver, but I think he's got really good hands. And is a guy that can make tough catches and clutch catches as well. So I would go with Bennett on that one.
Yeah, people say possession receiver like it's a bad thing. Like you do realize that the point of this is to keep possession of the ball. But go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, that's important, right? That's important.
JC, I didn't get a chance to ask this to Mike Furry before we ran out of time with him on our show on Friday, but a lot of times in football we talk about wide receivers maybe making a quarterback better, when maybe the quarterback's talent isn't quite up to snuff with everybody else. But you now have a situation where Lenore Sellers is being looked at as one of the best returning quarterbacks in all of college football. In his second year as a starter, how much better can he make this wide receiver room with his skills?
Oh, I think a lot. I think with him specifically, and I didn't say this because I'm not smart enough to say it, so I'm going to parrot Greg McElroy, G.A. Mangus, and Todd McShay. 3 guys that know quarterbacks, different types of evaluators. But they all said that, like, fundamentally what Lenore needs to is his lower body. In other words, getting his feet set. It's very subtle. If you watch Cam Ward last year, it's very chaotic. And I guess Miami couldn't block the ACC defensive lines for some reason last year. But he would be on the move a lot, but it's almost like a split half second where he'd get his feet set, fire, and he had a unique delivery and all that good stuff. I think that's kind of with Lenore Sellers, the way he's going to make receivers look a lot better, because when he does get set like that, he's very accurate and has good velocity on his balls and things like that. I think the other way is the deep ball. I mean, they didn't throw that many deep balls last year because the protection would be one of those reasons, because it's a you got to drop way back. It's time. It's a slower developing type of play. But I think definitely Lenore's could throw the deep ball. We've seen that. And when you throw it over the defensive back's heads and you have speed at receiver like Carolina does, that could be a good day. It could really be a good day. So those 2 areas, I think, are what how Lenore Sellers will help receivers And then leadership, I'll mention that too, because he's going to be out there working with his brother and his friends, all summer. And I think that's part of it too, to bring these guys along.
Well, JC, we got about a minute and a half left. This is also Coach Mike Furry's second season. What can we come to expect, or what have we come to expect from a Mike Furry led unit?
I think they are a group that overperformed a bit collectively last year just because of the injuries and in and out of the lineup. And I think he's a tremendous recruiter. I think he's a great evaluator of talent and is a good developer at the position as well. And his players love playing for him and stuff. I mean, there's not much. There's nothing bad, really. I mean, there's no criticisms of him, really, when you kind of look at what he's done since he's been here and who he is. I think he's a special coach, really. And obviously, when you look at what he did in the NFL as a player, that's amazing. And, so I expect a lot of improvement collectively out of this team and for the young guys to come along and for him to maximize the room. So.
Well, JC, we appreciate you joining us. As always, we'll talk to you again next week. We'll be in the thick of June. We'll be talking about some official visits and things that are happening there. Appreciate you joining us, man.
Man, thanks, y'all. I enjoyed it. Have a good one.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
JC.
When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more softball, unfortunately. This is the early game.
And we do have some slow traffic coming into town, I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and I-20. It's just very slow going coming into town. So be mindful of that. Allow a little extra time. Not seeing any reports of accidents per se, just a lot of people trying to get into the same area at the same time. 70 for the high today. A couple passing showers are possible. 84 tomorrow with some isolated storms. 83 Thursday, much of the same. 81 on Friday. Also chances for scattered thunderstorms. But then by the weekend, we should be clearing out and having a mix of clouds and sun throughout the weekend. So we'll get to enjoy that soon. But right now, 61 on the early game.
Welcome back into the early game. Welcome to the early game. If you're just joining us, Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen, having a lot of conversation today. Appreciate JC for joining us. Had a little bit of talk about the wide receiver room. I love to think about that conversation as far as what tools do you have in the toolbox as far as the room. Who's the guy that can jump up and get it? Who's the guy that can run? Who's the dude that if it's 3rd and 6 and we throw a garbage screen to, he turns it into a first down?
Right.
You need to have all of those different guys, and it feels like this year the wide receivers are going to be taking a big step forward.
So our toolbox is with a lot better tools as opposed to the hand-me-down tools that maybe, the ones that aren't as good, aren't as sharp, aren't as precise. Now we have a good set of tools.
That's a great way to think. That's a great way to think about it.
And
the long toolbox. Instead of the little Phillips head and flathead that I have, you have the long toolbox that my dad used to have, with all the nuts and bolts and different
and
rigs and stuff.
You essentially just went to Sears isn't around anymore, but wherever you buy your tools from, and got a new fresh set of screwdrivers and pliers and socket wrenches, and
we've got some cordless drills now.
Our dads have all at some point bought a new tool and couldn't be more excited to use it for the first time, right? That's what you have in this freshman receiver class. Like, I don't know which one I'm going to get to use first, but when I do, it's going to be fun, right?
But I got it. And
I got it.
And I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use it. Yeah, so, man, that's a very interesting way to think about it. We'll keep eye on that. And obviously, JC talked to us about the importance of June, which we will keep talking to as we move forward in June. But unfortunately, the most important thing of the day is the heartbreak that the softball team suffered over the weekend. They got almost literally as close as you could get to Oklahoma City without getting there. They were one out away, bottom of the 7th, winning the game. One pitch, game's over. Walk-off style. I am sad to report that I've been telling you all what a walk-off is, and now we know.
This one qualifies.
This is a picture-perfect definition of a walk-off home run.
It would have gone to an even higher degree if that was in the 3rd game.
Correct.
Because you have a walk-off, then you have a season-ending walk-off for the team that obviously loses. Like, that is the walk-off times 2.
Yes, that is the ultimate. The final boss of walk-offs would be that. But I will say this, and though Coach Woodard, who did obviously an amazing job this year, the team had tremendous success. To lose the game in that fashion, it felt pretty ominous. And I'm just a fan watching. I'm not in the locker room. Obviously, the women have to have beliefs, and they have been with each other all year. But as a fan watching this, it felt like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because it felt like it was going to be very hard to recover from that.
Yeah, and especially when you're playing a program that's been there and done that as many times as UCLA has. Again, we were all pleasantly surprised on Friday when they jumped out the lead, won that game, pretty handily. It's like, oh, man, okay, now you got the confidence they might be able to pull this off. And when UCLA out of that comeback, and they were down 3 runs going into the bottom of the 7th inning, obviously put 4 on the board to end up winning that game. I think for a lot of people, whether you want to admit it or not, you probably felt like, man, that might have been the series, because that momentum switch right there for, again, a program that's done this so many times, that's really hard to kind of get yourself back up for the next day, and obviously South Carolina wasn't able to do that on Sunday.
As I said, as a fan, it's okay for you to feel that way. As the players, they obviously didn't feel it. They knew they had another opportunity, but just the win sort of getting taken out of their sails in that particular game, because you have your ace pitchers, you have your best pitchers, you have. It's one thing when you lose a game. It's one thing when you lose a game with your best.
Yes.
And sometimes you just come up short, and they just came up short, and there's not a lot of different things that you can do, say, or have. And I told you all in the last hour, for me, I don't love seeing people win as much as I just hate seeing people lose games. That it's part of the game. It's athletics. Somebody wins, somebody loses. But there is a scenario where you can play your best game, do all you can, and the other team either just beats you, they might be better than you, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting balance between the joy of winning and the relief of not losing. You know what I mean? And depending on the situations and what's at stake and all that kind of stuff, that kind of, I guess, varies one way to the other. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, like I said, that there is more joy in not losing than there is sometimes in the joy of actually winning.
Yeah, because when you get to this point, especially this far in the season, obviously nobody's ever trying to lose.
Sure.
But these teams are playing at such a high level, somebody's going to make the mistake. The margin of error for you to win versus you losing is so slim.
Yep.
Like, she throws that rise ball. If it just goes up a little bit more, maybe that's a pop-up and not a home run, or all of these various scenarios could come out. Nevertheless, tremendous season, 44-17. They had a great year. And Jim, we're going to go to clip 2. Here is Coach Ashley Chastain Woodard talking about the team exceeding expectations this year.
Yeah, it means a lot. It means a lot. Obviously, we're losing a lot of experience if you look at the roster. So, it's an opportunity to really bring in some great players from other places. The portal opened for us last week, and, the fact that we were fortunate enough to host this event this weekend, I mean, there was recruits all in the stands all weekend. So, I have to believe that it will be a game changer for the quality of player that we're able to talk to and that we're in the conversation with. So really excited about that. And as you guys know, recruiting never stops. We're working really hard at it behind the scenes because we do need a lot of players. If you look at the roster and with what we anticipate the roster limit being for next year, it will be a team full of new faces again in the fall.
Speaks to the idea of recruiting. Never stops. It's always happening. But when you succeed at this level, when you're on national TV, when you have this type of record in the best softball conference in the nation,
yep,
it gives you access to a different level of recruit than they may have had before.
Sure. No, absolutely. And again, Chastain Woodard had to bring in a lot of girls from Charlotte, this past season. And again, they were a reason why they had success there and allowed her to get the job here. But yeah, I think you've unlocked kind of that next level of recruit saying, okay, South Carolina's got something, because, again, this is a program that historically for softball has never really looked at as a whole lot. A team that was consistently making the postseason, but never really doing much more than that once they got into regional play. But there's a level of excitement when you have a new coach that can come in and have success as quickly as Ashley Chastain Woodard has had. And if you're a girl transferring from, who knows where around the country saying, hey, I want to get on this train, I want to ride this success with Chastain Woodard, because you can see what she's been able to do in year number 1. And like I said a little bit earlier, she can now turn to those girls that were there watching on Saturday or over the weekend, when it comes to being out of the transfer portal, and say, hey, you can be part of what's going to get us that next level. You can be part of getting us to Oklahoma City. And again, there's a lot of them probably coming from schools that may not give them that chance. So we talked about, when you're at Charlotte, yeah, you can make the postseason, but you making the World Series, that's a long shot. But you come to a place like South Carolina or any Power 4 institution, your chance to get a whole lot better. So, again, you see a pathway to potentially get there here at South Carolina, and that's something that can make that recruiting pitch a little bit easier than maybe it was a year ago.
Yeah, and the team was obviously built with a lot of those women that came from Charlotte. Sam Gress being the pitcher. She's leaving, unfortunately. She's extended her eligibility, but
I don't know, these days, maybe you can sue and get another year. Who knows?
Maybe we'll find out. But Ariana Rhodey and Lex Winters, who also came from Charlotte, key parts of the team, will be back. Here's Coach Woodard talking about getting some of that national respect, because if you listen to the broadcast, if you watch these games, there was definitely a level like, oh, look at this cute little team, this little upstart compared to the Giants that they were playing. Here's Coach Woodard talking about earning some respect nationally.
I just love this place so much, and in the process of building the team and the wins and the losses, and I don't know, like I fell back in love with this place, and so I'm just really excited for the future. I really am, and I think that the respect that we earned on a national level in softball, I think is really a big deal for me. And the success that we had in the league. And I said from the beginning, that I wanted to get the league from the bottom to the middle. I felt like if we could get ourselves up in the middle of the league standings, that, we'd have a chance to host. And, obviously that came true for us. So I thought that was a huge step in the right direction. Obviously for me, the bright spots are the people. And so I could probably sit here for 5 hours and talk about individual, Sam Gress stories and Ari Rhodey, Lexi Winters, Abby Knight stories, and down the roster. But the great thing about coaching is that you're able to stay connected with all of the people that you coach. And, I'm excited for the next step in their lives and being a part of those conversations. And, that's a huge part of the mentorship that happens behind the scenes of helping them be prepared for the next step in life. So, I don't know if I could pick one thing. It's really all of it. It's been a dream come true. It's been wonderful every day to lead the program, and, I'm going to continue to do my best to lead the program, and so that we're talking about something different next year.
And we'll see where it goes. Who knows what next year brings? Now in college sports, as much as any other time, it's a year-to-year deal.
Yep.
Who knows what they bring in? Who knows what leaves? We don't know what the transfer portal holds, but we do know, at least we should feel as if this program is on sure and firm footing.
Which stick and ball sport are you most excited about for 2026? I think that's an easy answer.
I think that's pretty clear. We'll have some more conversation about that coming up. But next, I got my gearheads in here, and it's only right. I'm going to take advantage of them. I have questions. There was lots of racing this weekend, and we'll come back next segment and talk some racing. This is the early game.
Still experiencing heavier than normal traffic, I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and the Bush River Road exit. So between exits 102 and 108A, we just have some additional slowdowns, so be mindful of that as you're making your way in this morning. Scattered showers are possible throughout the day today. We're looking for a high of 70. 84 tomorrow with some isolated storms. More storms possible Thursday and Friday. Will be in the low 80s, but we will be clearing out for the weekend. So by Saturday, should be mostly sunny and in the mid 80s. We'll welcome that for sure. Just have a few days of rain that we have to contend with. Cloudy and 61 currently on 107.5 The Game.
As we take a look
Out of the slipstream, out of the toe, has the momentum, and fires it past.
and when you're talking about wieners that big, the draft is just so powerful at those speeds.
But timing it is so difficult. We've seen it in countless Indy 500s. Drivers pulling out too early, drivers pulling out too late. But right now, that was the perfectly timed pass. Less than a wiener length was the difference across the line.
And while we talk of the joy and the emotion for Slaw Dog, what about for Chai Dog, who had done such a phenomenal job all the way through the inaugural Weenie 500?
There you see photo finish right there. Truly excellence on display here at the Speedway.
America.
At its best.
Yes.
We can do major things in this country if we all just pull together.
Yep.
I don't think there is a collaboration that could have worked more perfectly than Indianapolis and Oscar Mayer wieners.
I would agree. And the fact that that track is so flat, that's what made that, a really good option.
You couldn't have taken them really anywhere else.
They can't go on the embankment anywhere. It doesn't work right now.
They could not go fast enough at a place like Charlotte because a risk of sliding off the banking, essentially. Like that, it was all perfect. It was all very well done.
Sometimes you just knock it out the park, man. And I can only imagine. Welcome back into the early game. You may or may not know what you were just listening to.
Right.
You were listening to the final call of the Wiener 500.
You were listening to every 12-year-old boy giggling insensely as they heard that.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. If you just got transported back to 7th grade, it's totally okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what we were doing. But the Wiener 500, Slaw Dog wins the inaugural event, which was a major event because they were representing the Southeast. So obviously racing just means more to us down here. So it's a big win. Beat the Shy Dog in a close battle.
Kind of a home game for the Shy Dog.
Home game for the Shy Dog. Close to Jen's heart. So it was a tough one.
It was a tough one. I was going to be the winner.
You was going to win either way.
Yep.
There we go. So the Wiener 500, if you haven't seen it, Tyler says it's worth the time to go see the whole.
It's on YouTube. It's about 10 minutes long, and you'll love it. I promise.
Yep. I promise you, you will spend 10 minutes on the internet doing something way worse.
Oh, yeah.
This will actually make you happy.
It will make you happy, make you smile, admire the guys in the booth who have just taken this as seriously as they call a race, a real race. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Before the event, they sang the Oscar Mayer Wiener song with hands over stomachs.
They had the little grandma.
She's, I forget her name, but you've probably seen her clip of the grandma that's not afraid to say vulgar things on the internet. She was there and
I will find her.
Gave the command before the event.
Another thing that never ceases to fail: old people cussing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It always works. It's always good.
Could be any better.
Put old people cussing. You put weird races, as I said earlier. Wienermobiles, mascots, babies racing.
Yep.
Whatever. I'm here for it. Probably seeing if there was probably some action on there somewhere.
Oh, listen, if it's possible you bet on, it can be bet on. I'm sure the Wiener race was bet on too.
Well, that was the first race, but there was a whole bunch of races this weekend. There was a lot happening. Now I want to take advantage of y'all for this segment, looking at all of the racing that was happening this weekend. I saw it described as Christmas Day for racing.
Yes.
Is that about accurate?
It is. Unfortunately, as we know it now, the last time, because Monaco will not be on this weekend next year. The schedule's getting shifted around. They might actually be in Montreal next year is what I've heard, though that could go head-to-head with the Indy 500, so we won't get the, hey, Monaco at 9 a.m., Indy at 12, 1 o'clock, and then the Coke 600 at 6.
Now, the way this works is you typically have one of these formats that you favor more, right?
Typically, yes.
You have more. What's your preferred?
I'm always going to go NASCAR.
You go NASCAR.
IndyCar's not far behind.
Jen?
You know, that's where I am. I mean, I grew up with the IndyCar, so I still love that, but I've gotten to where I just really enjoy NASCAR too. So, yeah, I'm probably a little closer.
The Indy 500, though, is recognized as the biggest racing event on the face of the earth. Last year, the rain kind of delayed the start of the Indy 500, and it pushed into the start of the Coke 600. I finished watching the Indy 500 before I switched over to the Coke 600 because it is that big of a deal. So even if NASCAR is your first love as a motorsport, you still probably would prefer the Indy 500 over any event.
So while we're talking Indy 500, I believe it's clip 19. Let's hear the final. Now, it was Alex Palou. Alex
Unlike
Palou.
what Boomer said.
Don't want a Boomer said. What do you say, Palou?
Yeah.
Boomers can be wrong. He can be wrong. And boomers can be wrong, too. It can happen. Let's play clip number 19. Let's hear that clip.
But Palou has the lead. Palou has the advantage. He told us coming into this weekend, if I don't win the Indy 500 in my career, it will be a career unfulfilled. He had, and the caution is out. Caution is out. Palou will win for validation, vindication for Alex Palou. He has won the Indianapolis 500.
What was the scene like, Jen?
You know, the crowd was thrilled.
Yes.
They were thrilled because he's been so successful this season thus far. And it's clear that right now this is his year. He's very dominant. So the crowd was very happy that when he finally took the lead. They were also excited about Connor Daly because he's a local guy. So there was hope for him. But Palou has just been so dominant. So they were thrilled. Honestly, they were cheering so much. And it was so much fun to watch. Oh my gosh, I just blanked out his name. Who was in the 2-seater car?
Tom Brady and
thank you.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, I could be a little fatigued right now. When Brady got in that car, people booed him. When they did driver introductions, he was heavily booed. So then he kind of was trolling people online and said, "Oh, I got one more picture," and made a comment about.
And one more successful drive in Indianapolis.
Yes. The exact quote, I took a screenshot of it as we want to do. The exact quote, it was nice to get in one more successful drive in front of a bunch of Colts fans.
Yeah.
That was the exact quote from our guy.
So, apparently he didn't like being booed, so he thought, well, I'll just take it one step further.
I was going to say, and Alex Palou winning is significant because a lot of the time, and it's kind of been the past couple of years of Newgarden winning, typically the Indy 500 is not won by guys that are like championship contenders. Alex Palou's won 3 out of the past 4 IndyCar championships and now wins the Indy 500. Like, Jen, we're going to be talking about him as potentially one of the greatest of all time. He's 28.
Yeah.
He's still got a long career ahead of him, but he has accomplished so much in just a handful of years, and now he's got the Indy 500 on his resume as well.
Well, Indiana was kind of one of the centers of the sports universe because he went to the Pacers game and they announced him out there, and obviously with the folks that were there, so that was really interesting. Now,
lots of Pacers gear out.
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
it was included in the prayer before the race too. So
kiss the bricks and beat the Knicks.
Yep,
I like it.
There actually there was a billboard that we saw.
That's how you're supposed to do it. That's unfortunately, we won't get to it much here, but they did not beat the Knicks.
They did not.
They did not. They blew a 20-point lead, but we'll come back to that maybe tomorrow. Okay. So we have the Indy 500 happens now. Kyle Larson was attempting to complete the double.
He was.
How did that go for him?
Well, and Jen,
595 laps.
Yeah, for one, he wouldn't have had enough time to complete the Indy 500.
No.
He was going to have to get out of the car before the race ended because there wasn't enough time feasibly, and NASCAR's his main priority.
Even if he was like close to.
That would have been a tough decision.
Yeah. Because he kind of had to make that commitment this year to being committed to the NASCAR portion of it.
Yeah, they were not happy that he missed the Coke 600 last year, so they've changed some rules around that would discourage him from doing that. So he knew if it came to it, he was going to have to get out of the car at some point. He ended up wrecking out before that, so that decision didn't have to be made. But then in the process of leading the Coke 600 early on in the race, gets in the wall, spins out, fights back, then gets caught up in another wreck. So just a rough day.
Yeah,
all around.
For somebody who can drive anything at any time very successfully, it was just an awful day for him.
Is this going to discourage him from trying to do it again?
I think
or anybody
so.
Else?
Yeah, he talks about it after the race on Sunday, that the logistics of it and what goes into it. And again, even for a 45-minute weather delay, you're essentially killing your chance of finishing one of the races. Like, I would love to see him do it again and complete the whole thing, but I just don't know if it's going to happen.
He did say last night at the Indy Awards dinner that he said that he would love to do the Indy 500. Probably not the double, but he would like to be able to just run it exclusively at some point.
That would have to be after his full-time NASCAR career is over, because you can't just miss a race in the middle of the season, unfortunately.
So he was going to the Coke 600. Now, my understanding, the Coke 600, is this the longest race of the year? Is that what they said?
Yes.
And Ross Chastain, which you just thought, I learned something from you. Can we get that clip, Janice? Clip 20, I believe.
The back to the front. Ross Chastain wins the Coca-Cola 600.
Coke 600, baby! Yeah! A World 600, yeah! You're damn right. Hell of a drive, man.
Yeah, I saw Ross Chastain again following the stuff on social media, but I kept seeing the watermelons happen.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what this is about, but Tyler explained it to me. Tyler explained it.
He is an 8th generation watermelon farmer out of Florida. His family, I mean, he still farms watermelons, still does that. That's kind of a side gig that he does. And when he wins, his brother walks a watermelon out to him on the front stretch, and he smashes it, and then proceeds to eat it while doing his winning interview.
I had no idea what was happening. I was like, what is
and people say race car drivers don't have personalities these days.
Oh, no.
He
they
has one.
do. Yeah, no, he definitely does. And, and it was so funny because he kind of came up where he was competitive all evening, but some of the top dogs, Hamlin had been leading. And shoot, you had the young gun Hocevar who really looked good, thought he was going to get the win.
And he started dead last, because he wrecked out in practice on Saturday. Team worked all night to get the car repaired and drove from the back to the front over 600 miles. So impressive win.
So overall, did the weekend live up to expectations?
I think the racing could have been maybe a little bit better at Indy. Just some of the restarts I think could have been bunched up better, but it was so it's a great race.
Solid weekend.
Yeah, fun weekend. 14 straight hours.
So that's our gearhead segment of our folks talking a little bit of racing. Tyler, I want to come back when we come back. Has Greg Sankey entered his villain era? Has he finally just took off the mask and said, "This is who I am"? When we come back, we'll discuss Greg Sankey and what he's saying before he's even having the meetings. This is the early game.
Not seeing any other accidents this morning. Wonderful news. We welcome that for sure. But still having that slow traffic I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and actually Harbison Boulevard. Still a little bit slow going in that area. So let's see. We are looking at 70 for the high today. That's about all before it starts warming up the rest of the week. 70 today, some passing showers. Isolated storms tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. We will be in the low to mid 80s, but still kind of holding steady. A little bit of rain trying to break through. It's cloudy and 61 right now on 107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen have a lot of discussions today. Obviously, we talked a little bit earlier about the softball heartbreak that took place over the past weekend, but good on Columbia. You showed out. You came out there, provided an excellent home field advantage, which I would argue should have maybe granted you home games.
Yeah, I just, you go back to the regional where you have to swap home and away and that kind of stuff. And it's like, if you've earned the right, if the powers that be that do the selecting feel like you're one of the best 8 programs in the country, you should be the home team for all 3 games. I'm sorry. And you know what? If they can't have their walk-up song, if you can't play Sandstorm, okay, but at least let them be the home team.
Yeah, and maybe obviously we're really posting this because of what happened, the events that happened this past weekend. So the SEC moves forward. SEC is strong in softball. SEC is strong in baseball. SEC is strong in basketball. SEC is strong in football. And I think Greg Sankey is about tired of everybody, and he's ready to tell everybody.
By the way, just like basketball, baseball set the record.
Did they?
Most teams from one conference making the tournament with 13.
13.
Yep.
So it was 14 in basketball, I believe was the number.
Yes, 13 for baseball.
13 in baseball. The SEC is obviously dominant. And Greg Sankey is just telling everybody, hey, listen, I'm tired of it. We run the show, and we want to be paid and make money accordingly.
Yep.
And my question before the break was, has Greg Sankey entered his villain era? Is this where he just finally says, you know what, I'm done with it. We run the sports, plural, and we should act and govern accordingly?
I, in a way, kind of appreciate the honesty, to be honest with you. And I was going back and forth with some people about this on Twitter last night. I think we need to remember Greg Sankey's job is to make the most money for the SEC and its member institutions, not to make college sports better. Greg Sankey could care less how much you're enjoying college football. As long as the SEC is making money, he's doing his job, and he's doing his job well.
I like Greg Sankey. I like him a lot, actually. I look forward to him speaking every year at the SEC meetings. I think he's measured. I think he's a killer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think he's somebody that you want on your team.
Sure. But
I do think he did a great job leading the SEC through and out of COVID. He's a leader to me. I get it. I like him a lot. But I'm also SEC biased and also based in the SEC.
And I'm a believer that two things can be true at the same time. Truth A is that Greg Sankey is really good at his job and doing exactly what he is put in the position and paid a lot of money to do, which is make the SEC very, very profitable. But at the same time, it can also be hurting the overall enjoyment of college sports, in this case, college football, for everyone, because the SEC wielding all the power, or the majority of the power with the Big Ten, doesn't translate for making college football as a whole a better product.
Here's where I want to lean on you, Tyler.
Okay.
Because there are going to be a lot of changes, twists, and turns before we come to a lot of the final answers about college football.
Yep.
And to be honest, I haven't followed all of them to this point. Most recently, Greg Sankey, along with the Big Ten, they're basically in a power play to consolidate the power of, especially we're talking college football playoffs here.
Yeah,
What
pretty much.
What is the latest iteration of what they're trying to propose?
So basically, and the way we got here is because, again, the SEC and the Big Ten make more money than everybody else with their TV deals. And in the prior formats of the college football playoff, everybody had equal say. Everybody had to agree on what the format was going to be. Well, essentially, the SEC and the Big Ten said, hey, if you don't give us more power, we're just going to leave. We're just going to do our own thing, create our own playoff, whatever it may be. So basically, they called everyone's bluff to say, okay, we'll let you guys be in charge, make the decisions, just so the ACC, the Big Ten, all the Group of 5 conferences can still be a part of whatever the playoff's going to be. So they yield most of the power, which is why we're getting to this point where we're looking at a 14 to 16 team playoff with possibly automatic qualifiers, as much as 8 total between the SEC and the Big Ten.
4 and 4.
4 and 4, where you take the top 4 of the SEC, top 4 of the Big Ten, boom, you're automatically in the playoff. Chance for maybe some, at-large bids at the back end of that as well. But the majority of teams making up the playoff will come from the Big Ten and the SEC because, again, everybody kind of had to agree to it or else get left out in the cold without the 2 biggest conferences being a part of whatever the postseason was going to be. It's unfortunately we've gotten to this point, but money makes everything go around, and that's how we've gotten here.
Now, most majority of folks listen here, SEC bias, SEC,
Sure.
SEC. It just means more.
Yep.
Whatever. That being said, the second part of your equation, is this going to be something that waters down the ultimate product of college football?
I think we're already kind of there, right? Because college football always had the best postseason. Because if you lost one game back in the 2-team or even the 4-team playoff format, I mean, you could be done. Now, yeah, there were plenty of instances where teams were able to fight their way back and still win the national championship. But let's go back to last year when Georgia lost to Ole Miss, right? I think it was early or mid to late October, maybe early November when that game happened. Lose to Ole Miss on the road, fans storm the field, second loss of the season for Georgia. Didn't mean a whole lot at that point in time because Georgia still had all their goals in front of them, still a path to the SEC, still a path to win the SEC championship, still a path to make the college ball playoff, where in years past, a second loss in the regular season, they would have been cooked. They would have been done for. There would have been no path for them to win the SEC, would have been no path for them to get the college football playoff. So I feel like in a way, we've already watered down what made college football so great. Now, yeah, there were still a lot of games that were important late in the season, but the do-or-die nature of the sport has been diluted quite a bit, and it's only going to get worse from here, unfortunately.
Well, this is obviously an era of tremendous change in college athletics, whether you're talking about rev share, which, by the way, everybody's acting like it's done. It's not done.
It's not. And we are, again, 96 days away from this season starting, and we've not gotten the final approval on this thing. Like, we thought, oh, yeah, that'll be, but by summertime, we're good. No, we're not good yet.
People are making budgets, and it's like, yeah, I don't know if this, we're assuming it's going to happen, but it's not done yet.
There's a pathway, and look, I don't have all the legal knowledge to understand how this would work, but there's a pathway to implement it without the judge's approval that, again, that's complicated, and I want to get into all that kind of stuff, so there's ways around it. But, yeah, I don't think we expect to be sitting here on May 27th still waiting for this thing to get the final thumbs up.
Yeah, we assumed that was going to be done, and that's an aside. So there's that era, there's that is taking place. Then there's also the realignment conversations.
Yep.
All of this has to do with money. But to put a button on this, I would say whenever you're hearing somebody talking about the long-term future of college athletics, I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to it because we are in an unprecedented era. And so when you hear USC and Notre Dame schedule out for 12 years, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. We don't know what is going to be a possibility.
Yeah. What conferences are going to be around by then? How many teams are going to be in the playoff by then? Like how many teams are going to be at this level of college football by then? There's no telling. I mean, nobody could have predicted in 2020 what 2025 would look like in college football. There's no way we could sit here and predict what 2030 is going to look like.
When we come back, Tyler's here for a reason today. Sometimes things are just meant to be. Wrestling, last segment, the early game.
Second, trick shot. That time under the jaw, into the cover. Oh my God! What?
Here's the winner and the new TNA World Champion, Trick Williams!
History has been made. This moment will live on forever.
This moment will live on forever. That's right. Trick Williams. Now, Tyler, I'm going to read a sentence here, and I'm going to read it Ron Burgundy style because I don't know what any of this means.
Okay.
Trick Williams just won the TNA World title at NXT Battleground.
Yes.
What does that mean?
He defeated Joe Hendry on Sunday at Battleground, which is a premium live event for NXT. Now, TNA is a different promotion.
See, this is where I got confused.
So
this is where I'm getting confused.
TNA is its own thing, total nonstop action, wrestling, Impact. They have their own show on a different network. There you go.
And with the trick shot.
And a little over a year ago, the WWE entered an agreement with them. Now, WWE is not owning TNA, but
like the SEC and Big Ten?
Kinda.
Okay.
Now, TNA is kind of seen as the same level as NXT, where it's a little bit under the main roster of WWE, so they're kind of on a similar playing field. And they've had this cool crossover for about the past year or so, where they appear on each other's shows, they do joint events, joint, pay-per-view type of things. And he was in the position to challenge for the world championship and won it. So he is a multi-time world champion across two different promotions now. So now he will appear more on that show in addition to NXT. So it's getting him out there in front of more people.
So did he get traded to TNA?
Not really. It's just kind of one of those things where if you're on the roster of either one, you have the ability to show up on either show. It's something that when WWE was owned by Vince McMahon would have never happened. Now that he has moved on and sold his stake in the company, these kind of things are now open to happening, which is really neat. And again, just creates more opportunities, which I think is cool.
So, so if you don't know, if you're just introducing, Tyler, it's almost perfect that you was on the show today.
Yep.
Because we had to have somebody who could speak credibly about this, because whenever I see my guy, Trick Williams, Matt Belton, for those who don't know, Matt Belton, former Gamecock wide receiver, former Keenan Raider.
We got to get him in here one day.
We got to get him. He got him in there. And I want to be like, man, I'm so proud of the kid. Not a kid.
Yeah.
Grown man.
Yep.
But he's a Columbia native, played for the Gamecocks. Comes from a great family, the Belton family. I know him. I know his family. I know his brother. He's a great guy. So it's always really cool to see him get into character and get this promotion. And they're sticking with him. There's still a lot of steam behind him and his character. And it just feels like it's gonna happen at some point.
He's gonna make the jump at some point. I thought it'd be by now, but you don't put world championships on people you don't believe in. Right. So he'll get up there one day.
It'll happen one day. So that'll be soon. So again, Trick Williams, Matt Matrix Belton, former Gamecock wide receiver, wins the TNA world title for the first time in history.
Yes.
This is a moment that's going to go down in history according to the announcers.
Now,
huge moment.
History in wrestling gets thrown around a lot, so but yeah, very cool to win 2 world championships.
It'll go down in history until the next time it happens.
Yes, pretty much.
Until the next time. But this is the first time.
Yes.
Much like the inaugural Weenie Mobile race.
Yes, there is.
It has to be appropriate. Jen, can we finish with that? I believe that was clip. No, you know what? Let's not. We're out of time. Maybe we'll bring it back tomorrow. We'll bring back the Weenie Mobile, but there was a lot of history being made. The Slaw Dog wins the first Weenie Mobile 500. Trick Williams wins the TNA belt at NXT. Tyler, it's always fun, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you hanging.
See you guys on Friday.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all. This is the early game.